All right, welcome to Frontline. 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin some breaking news. President Trump has extended the ceasefire indefinitely because we're not entirely sure who to talk to because Iran can't figure out who's currently in charge of the country since we killed basically all their other leaders. Got more on this in just a sec. Also, just minutes before we came to air, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and the FBI Director Kash Patel announcing charges of wire fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering against the Southern Poverty Law Center. This is a notorious left-wing group. It's targeted a number of conservatives like Moms for Liberty, Family Research Council, and even Turning Point USA. Called them hate groups or extremists. We're going to follow these developments pretty closely. And former Congresswoman Sheila McCormick resigning today ahead of her House Ethics Committee decision on her punishment after finding her guilty of stealing $5 million in FEMA funds in 2021. McCormick, of course, is calling this whole process a witch hunt. She's a victim, and it's just a political game. So she resigns? Why not fight it if that's the case? Well, good riddance, lady. More on this with Representative Lauren Boebert shortly. But first, when in the history of pretty much ever has an entire political party cheered for our enemies? It's happening right now. Let's do this. Look, as a military guy, it kind of hurts my soul because we're living in a country, actually, in this case, like we have a U.S. senator, I should say, rooting for the enemy of the country he's supposed to represent. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Chris Murphy, fresh off of his tour of trashing America in Spain. He decided, obviously, to celebrate straight up Iranian propaganda that 26 Iranian Shadow Fleet vessels had bypassed our blockade somehow. To that, the U.S. Senator, my senator from Connecticut says, awesome. I'm sorry, what? The internet exploded over this. And it was only after that Murphy backed down. After, probably a bunch of his donors called him like, dude, WTF. Okay. So Murphy then tweets a clarification, says, okay, Twitter, I can't believe I need to clarify this, but obviously Trump's bungled mismanagement of the war is not awesome. As I have said a million times here, it is a disaster and he should end the war immediately. My tweet was something called sarcasm. First, sarcasm requires some level of intelligence that Murphy does not possess. But just going off of the history of Chris Murphy, who in 2022 wanted to remove Iran's Revolutionary Guard that for 50 years has provided material support to terrorists that are killing Americans. He was willing to remove them from the terrorist watch list to get some stupid deal that Iran would probably adhere to about as well as they are to the ceasefire right now.
Would you take the Iran's Revolutionary Guard off the terror list in order to get a deal?
Yes.
That was an enthusiastic yes. So excuse me for believing your initial statement over your clarification statement. I'm with Rick Scott here, who said he should be stripped of his assignment to the Foreign Relations Committee now. Yeah, I mean, I think he should have been stripped after trashing America when he went to Spain. At a minimum, he should be expelled from the Senate and charged with treason, I think. I can almost guarantee that's what Democrats would probably do to a Republican. Remember what they did to Mike Flynn. We talked about it the other night. They illegally made up an investigation based on an illegally obtained wiretap, and then the then Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, wanted him charged with the Logan Act, which charged approximately 0 people ever, for a discussion on a hypothetical policy that hadn't happened yet on sanctions and what might happen in the incoming administration that Mike Flynn was the national security advisor for. But Republicans in the Senate will probably do nothing because they're a bunch of geriatric status quo bumps on a log. Look, Murphy said it, and he probably meant it because he has this reflexive reaction to oppose anything Trump does. It's like when you hit somebody in the knee, it just happens, it kicks. Even if he has to side with Iranian propaganda, which the left is doing an awful lot of these days. Just listen to Mark Cuban's younger brother.
That we need to go to the mullahs in Iran to find out whether or not the president is just huffing or whether or not some of these words are supposed to have something to do with something that's happened in the real world.
Yeah, let's just go talk to the same mullahs that are chanting death to America. Yeah, because we can trust them. But Congressman Seth Moulton thinks it's only because Iran doesn't trust us.
One is the basic trust that you can have a negotiation with the other side and that you can come to some agreement that both sides will will not only agree on, but will trust will be implemented. Well, every time Iran has come to the negotiating table before, Trump has bombed them.
First off, does he live in a greenhouse? He always has like 37 plants behind him. Trump bombs them because they keep walking away from the negotiating table. Is this guy even paying attention, or is he just lying like Adam Schiff about Russian collusion? But seriously, all of these lips, so critical of Trump's policy that is actually, by the way, debilitating Iran rather than giving them more money to build their arsenal like the last two Democrat presidents we had. What is their policy other than flying in pallets of cash in the middle of the night?
Message to Iran in this moment.
Don't.
And what's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, like a semi-conscious man in diapers and a cackling failure like Kamala Harris says that wouldn't keep my hand out of the cookie jar, let alone stop a country that hates us from building a nuke. I think even Republican politicians, though, most of whom who have been so beltway blinded, like, oh, they all get along and hang out with each other. Mike Johnson, finally, I don't know if he just woke up one day and started to realize that we're up against some bad dudes here, which is good because maybe they'll stop dilly-dallying on the House floor and actually pass some stuff.
Our politics have now entered a new era. It's called common sense versus crazy. Republicans return to common sense versus Democrats, just madness.
Dude, it's been like that for 10 years. You're just realizing, I mean, I'm glad you're there now, but it's been a while. Now, run the gauntlet on Democrats in the next legislative session because this is crushing our country. Democrats have destroyed literally everything they touch. Every state they control, every city, everything is a dump. Look at what they're doing. Budgetary, anything to accommodate foreigners, even ones stealing from us. That's a couple months ago. Some Somali guy gets convicted of stealing $7.2 million. Jury returns the verdict, okay? Guilty due to overwhelming evidence, universal decision. And the Democrat-appointed judge overturns the jury, and the guy walks out the front door with $7.2 million of our tax. How many of these Democrat-appointed judges have let criminals, illegal, violent criminals, out of jail for violent offenses, and then they go turn around and they kill an American citizen? Like, who are the libs' allegiance to? Apparently, this Connecticut state rep's loyalties are to Pakistan, where she replaced the American flag with a Pakistan flag on her desk. And then you got Mark Milley, General Mark Milley, who was the former, actually current when he did this, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He said that he would tell China, and he would alert China if Trump intended to do anything militarily. Like, where is his treason trial? Like, keep in mind, you did that anywhere else. Firing squad. Virginia today trying to steal an entire state's electoral system to remain in power forever. Open admission that their policies are so bad that they need to change the shapes like that one right there, the weird yellow thing looks like a lobster, to keep power. You have Cory Booker opening the Michigan Democrats convention like he was crossing the Delaware.
There is a storm in our nation. There is darkness and wind. People are getting hurt. What we need is not from on high. We need foot soldiers of our democracy who in times of trial are willing to stand up.
Foot soldiers, really? That's an awful bold statement from the people that own almost no guns, whose soldiers have either aborted themselves out of existence or forgone any resemblance of testosterone. And stand up for what? Like, what does the Democrat Party... They cannot answer this to me. What does the Democrat Party stand for? I've been asking this question for 10 years on TV. Certainly not taxpayers or veterans or even its own citizens. No. They have 98% of their energy focused on illegals, Iran, and transing your kids, putting tampons in the boys' bathroom. And this. Turn that off. I'm not listening to that. Taking over Times Square for Islamic prayer. And all these Democrats are like, it's beautiful. Okay, take your lib values over to a Muslim country and watch them throw gays off buildings. While the mayor of New York City, he's encouraging that, but bans the celebration of the America 250 party for the 4th of July. But libs want to import people from that part of the world that believe those things that are statistically, I'm not making this up, the least contributing members of global society. Yes, Muslims from Somalia, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan are the least productive migrants in the world, according to the Denmark study, or the Danish study. And yet that seems to be the people Democrats spend 98% of their time supporting, while they openly run actual taxpayers out of town with their most prominent strategist unarguably the most prominent Democrat strategist telling the world exactly what they're going to do when they get their power back.
In the presidency in both houses of Congress, I think on day one, they should make Puerto Rico, D.C. a state, and they should expand the Supreme Court to 13. Eat our dust.
And yet the Republican Senate won't even blow the filibuster to fund the Department of Homeland Security or pass the Save America Act, which 83% of people support. Like, what happened to America, man? We used to have differences, but we're united against the enemy because we were uniquely united by the honor of being part of, like, the greatest country ever. When people realized that this was it. America is the shining light on the hill, and if America fell, there was nowhere else to go. And sometime between then and now, 50% of the country seems to have forgotten that, because we're in the good times create soft men stage, which is about to bring hard times if the libs ever get back control. Team guy Mike Sarraille and member of the Benghazi Annex security team, Mark Geist. Mark, I'm just shocked that someone can hate the country that has provided them so much opportunity.
I think a lot of it just comes down to TDS. I mean, they have such a hatred to anything Trump that they're willing to root for the enemy. I mean, when we look at Iran, it's not just about the attacking the Iranians and getting rid of the IRGC. This whole war has also gotten rid of the Chinese Belt Road Initiative. It's also diminished the ability of Lloyd's of London because they don't want to ensure shipping around the world. And Donald Trump said, hey, we could do that for you. Mm-hmm. Think about the millions, if not billions of dollars that are going to come in just because of that.
Yeah. But Mike, the same question is, they will reflexively cheer against things and legislate against things that are notably and statistically and factually and historically good for America. And they're like, no, we can't give Republicans a win here so we can get power and people will drown in their own poverty.
I think you're trying to apply logic where none exists, common sense where none exists. I can't justify it. I can't rationalize it.
But people vote for it.
And that's the problem. And that's the indoctrination that is going on in higher education. And there's no decency to it. At the end of the day, and I know Mark served, you served, we all served. You did it so that there was a potential for a better America, so that our streets were safe, that people have the opportunity to start a business or get a good paying job, that they're left alone, that they don't live in fear. Mm-hmm. And the Democratic, stance in their direction. Guys, I shamefully admit that I was born in the Bay Area of California. I can't even go back there anymore because it's illogical. And it's saddening that this is not what we fought for, but this is the current fight. It's internal now.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. But, Mark, you have, like I always say, we could survive a Barack Obama or a Joe Biden or whatever, but we can't survive an electorate dumb enough to keep electing people that literally hate everything that made us great.
You're right. I mean, the majority of people that I've ran into that are on the left, traveling around Colorado, I mean, we've seen it here. You can rape a child 3 times and still get community service in Colorado. I mean, who would ever think that? They want our children they want to take away our parents' rights. So if you don't affirm your child's sex that they want you to affirm, then your child, the state can take it away from you. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. But, Mike, we have these conversations over and over again. And, obviously our viewers are, I believe, above average intelligence and obviously significantly lean right. But how do you get through to somebody who has never experienced any hardship? I mean, there are kids entering the workforce today that don't remember, they weren't born at 9/11. They don't remember 2008. How do you enforce to them, like, hey, guys, like, we are it. We are so great, and you should not hate this. Otherwise, go to Iran and see how you survive.
And First off, Carl, I thought we were known as the deplorables, regardless of our IQ level, or at least that's what we used to be called. So you're right on perspective. We live in a very safe and somewhat entitled, bubble that does not reflect the real world.
Mike, the primary health concern among poor people in America is obesity. They eat too much.
You are correct. The lack of perspective, 85% of the world is third world countries. And we all know that the highest education is actually world travel. And it makes you grateful for what you have. You've both been to war-torn countries. We've seen how those people live, how they're grateful for the small things. And we've lost that bubble. But ultimately, it comes back to this. We are in a war of ideologies. And I don't think the right can defeat the left, nor should it. Ultimately, those that are of the left, closer to center, need to take on this left progressive, just fanatical wing. That's the only way it's going to be defeated. Pulling the majority of the left back to center, and arguably some people on the right, we need to pull them back to right center as well. The ability to have dialogue and discourse is lost, and when you lose that, I can tell you what comes next. You both know it well.
And we're good at it. So at least there's that. Mike, Mark, pleasure as always.
Hey, thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Mark.
Coming up, another bright idea from Tim Waltz, his latest demands from the Democrat Party later on in the show. But first, some huge news from the Capitol, where the GOP members claim that the Save America Act is no longer being considered in the Senate. How in the world is this popular? Colorado Congressman Lauren Boebert sounds off in just a sec.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. See their stories at Ancestry.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Healthy aging support starts here with the innovative nitric oxide science pioneered by Human, supporting your body from the heart out through circulation, blood flow, blood pressure, and energy. Results you can feel, science you can trust. Get started today at human.com.
Hey, you remember that whole Save America Act thing? What's going on with that? It's been weeks. And why have our GOP representatives sort of forgotten about it, with the exception of a few? Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, one of them, tweeting out, "Just so America knows, after 2 weeks in recess, John Thune is no longer considering the Save America Act." However, a source familiar with this says that Luna's statement's not true. So, but right now the Senate is focused on ICE and Border Patrol funding through the budget reconciliation process, followed by FISA, which should never be renewed. And then they will return to the SAFE Act after dealing with these pressing issue. You guys can't walk and chew gum at the same time. You're the U.S. government, for God's sakes. All you got to do is vote. Done. I don't understand the problem here. Voter ID is not a controversial issue. Remember, even CNN admitted it.
Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%. 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
So what's the holdup? Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, ma'am, what is the holdup?
John Thune is the holdup, and I think it's time that the American people put pressure on his senators. He has proven that he can take the heat, and it's going to remain the same. He is immovable on this subject. He needs to nuke the filibuster and bring the Save America Act to the Senate floor for a vote. We have passed the Save America Act out of the House, and we continue to message the dire need to pass this out of the Senate and get it to President Trump's desk. If that means attaching it to FISA, sure. I agree with you. FISA should never be reauthorized, but at the very least, let's have warrants to spy on American citizens. Let's get in there. The Fourth Amendment is not for sale, so the federal government cannot purchase your data from private companies. And let's attach the Save America Act to FISA. Give them another opportunity on a must-pass piece of legislation to actually get this through the Senate and to President Trump. Americans are demanding this. I just had Scott Pressler in Colorado talking to thousands of voters, and he mentioned several bills that the Senate is pretending to actively work on like they matter right now.
Right.
None of them knew what they were, but every single one of them knew what the Save America Act is, and they want it passed.
It's so crazy to me. 83% of America doesn't agree on anything but oxygen, and yet here we are. They still won't pass it. Something also I'm not letting go, which you've been very vocal about, is this congressional slush fund with a House Ethics Committee who, look, we had Comer on last week, and he was like, yeah, we're going to release the names. They come out with this long report. Turns out it's all already public knowledge what they came at. I want to know who the money went to.
So, Carl, this isn't all of it. This is not what we subpoenaed. This is something that was released by the House Ethics Committee, and we are still waiting on the documents that we subpoenaed in the Oversight Committee. Remember, 357 congressmen and women sent this over to the Ethics Committee and said, let's just let them work on it. And then we immediately went into the Oversight Committee and said, no, we want these documents. We are issuing the subpoena. We want names. We want to know who was paid and why. And so victims' names are currently being redacted, and I expect to have that full list next week.
I want to know who the other dude was in that Senate briefing room video. That's like top tier, and if he got paid, because that guy went away so quietly, I guarantee you there was money involved in that one. I want to know if it was my tax dollars. Speaking of Ethics Committee. Yeah. Ethics Committee, we mentioned Sheila McCormick resigns from Congress after stealing $5 million from FEMA. Okay. She's saying it's a witch hunt. I'm like, then why'd you resign?
Right. She certainly was facing expulsion. Even her own members in her own party were going to vote to expel her because they're not only she's not only stealing their money, she's stealing money from their constituents. There are some egregious charges there. The Ethics Committee released their full report. The expulsion was inevitable, and she bowed out and resigned. But just like every crook and creep up here, the allegations are always false, according to them. But the American people are seeing through all the disgust and filth in Washington, D.C., and me and a few others are leading the charge to expose every single one of them and make sure that there is accountability.
Are we going to see charges for her? Like, they always resign, and then these go away unless you're George Santos.
Right. I want to see charges on her and many, many others. I'm very disappointed that we haven't seen many more perp walks or any perp walks in this administration. I mean, this needs to happen. I mean, I think it's a big reason why Pam Bondi is no longer our attorney general. There just was not enough getting done. I don't want to gripe about the problems. I want to have justice and accountability. And that's what the American people want as well. This isn't about retribution. This is accountability and justice.
Yeah. Ma'am, real quick, I got about 30 seconds left. House Oversight Committee is announcing that it's going to investigate the several deaths and disappearances of American scientists. We talked about this early when it first broke months ago. Nuclear or space research programs, they're gone or dead.
Now, if this was any other industry where this many people had just come up missing or had died, this would be a much larger story than it has been. And I think that is very suspect. Congressman Tim Burchett and I and Anna Paulina Luna, we are very concerned. Even Democrats like Jared Moskowitz have a big question mark around this. What did they know? What is being covered up by them being gone? And we are going to investigate this and much more. But first, the House Oversight Committee, we have to actually gavel in for a real hearing rather than roundtables and not be afraid of subpoenas being issued.
I'm down with that. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, the Dobbs decision sparked outrage and death threats for some of the justices. But now a bombshell report claims that some of those justices may have actually delayed the release for that reason. So who knew what and when? Deets next.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
Buying a new car? You need WeatherTech. Perhaps a nice used car? You need WeatherTech. Or maybe you're still driving Old Faithful. You need WeatherTech. No matter the age of your vehicle, American-made WeatherTech products are the solution. Because masses don't care what year your vehicle is. See? You do need WeatherTech. Order your American-made protection at WT.com.
Dale, you really need to get that colon cancer screening.
Yeah, it's been forever.
Dale, we can do it with just a blood test. Shield.
Shield is for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk for colon cancer. Ask your doctor about FDA-approved Shield.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
Americans have lost billions of dollars in their retirement accounts during the dot-com bubble of 2000.
And inflation is only getting worse.
Patriot Gold Group just introduced our America 250 Inflation Protection No Fee for Life IRA.
I'm sure glad Eileen and I rolled over our IRAs into gold in 2019.
On Wall Street, there's a saying, sell in May and go away.
My saying is, call the Patriot Gold Group today.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the No Fee for Life IRA. Patriot Gold Group is patriots protecting patriots.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Here at Allegiance, we feel like American flags should be made in America.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags were actually being made overseas.
Every flag we make is proudly crafted in the USA with superior materials.
Join us in our mission to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
You remember when we were told that the biggest scandal around the Dobbs decision was its leak months before it was official? Yeah, turns out that may have just been the tip of the iceberg. A new report is pulling back the curtain on what happened inside the Supreme Court, okay? Conservative justices were facing credible death. Like, people came to their homes with intimidation and even an attempted assassination on one. And their liberal colleagues were allegedly dragging their feet. They were slow walking the release of the final decision for extra weeks to extend the public pressure on these. I mean, let that sink. This is the Supreme Court. According to a new report based on insider accounts, the majority, which we shouldn't have because there should be no leaks here, but the majority was warning that every day there was a delay, there was a serious security risk that kept the ruling in limbo, only gave radicals more time and more opportunity to be a pain. Alito specifically asked the dissenters, the libs, to prioritize finishing their opinions because the threats were escalating, and yet no timeline, no urgency, no cooperation from the left. This was just the bureaucratic dysfunction that was being used by the liberals. Former Assistant Attorney General Theo Wold and legal and political strategist for former legal clerk for federal Judge Katie Zacharia. All right, Theo, I mean, we should know nothing about the inner workings of the Supreme Court. It should be buttoned up so tight, but yet here we are.
Yeah, I think that's right, Carl. We should know nothing at all, even these insider accounts of the liberal justices' delay. But look, this is just further confirmation that we have now moved so far away from a collegial and civic court. And the left in particular, the three leftist justices and some of their former colleagues like Justice Breyer, what you get from these anecdotes about the leak is that they will do anything to win at all costs. That's their sort of they see it as their function and their purpose on the court. And I think, under the stewardship of Chief Justice John Roberts, there's really been no answer from the administration of the court to button this up and to put this in a bottle.
Well, Katie, that's the other problem, too. There was this leak. They leaked a decision on this, and from all the available information that's coming out now, it appears that it may be, based on which notes are coming out when, it may be out of Sotomayor's office.
Well, I mean, they're looking at Sotomayor, but what they're really focused on and what they did earlier focus on was Chief Justice Roberts. And the fact that we haven't seen anything to this point does, in my opinion, suggest that it's actually less likely Sotomayor and more likely the Chief Justice, and that's why he's stalling it. Again, that's just my opinion. I tend to have a low threshold and tolerance for this type of stuff. Carl, this leak was unprecedented, and it should go to both sides of the aisle who say that the Supreme Court is not political. Anyone who does not want accountability for this, the flag should be right on them because the Supreme Court should be above this, no matter which side you're on. And we have to find an answer to this, and I think it's John Roberts.
Yeah, that would be... run them out of town if that's the case. Theo, we mentioned this at the top of the show. It was just breaking right as we came into the show. The Justice Department charging the Southern Poverty Law Center on charges of wire fraud, bank fraud, money laundering. Listen to Todd Blanchard explain how the left-wing group literally perpetuated its own self to garner more support. Watch this.
The SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
Literally, Katie, I know we just lost Theo, but Katie, literally paying and perpetuating white supremacists and hate groups in order to call them white supremacists and hate groups so they could go raise more money, garner more power, maintain their relevance, I guess?
Well, these are these fabricated situations that we've seen across the country where they create a scenario to be a victim, and then they claim victim when there isn't a perpetrator. They have themselves created the perpetrator, Carl. This is time and time again. Where is the perpetrator? They are manufacturing this crisis so they can point their fingers at the right. It happened with January 6th. It happens over and over and over. We've seen it, Jesse Smollett. We've seen it over and over again. This shouldn't surprise us that a weaponized nonprofit group is trying to upend the policies of this administration by purporting to say, oh, we have a criminal justice system that there's all these perpetrators out there that we're actually paying off to become the perpetrators. It's gross.
It's madness, actually. So I'm glad. I hope they perp walk. I think there's 11 people right now that they're currently directly investigating or hopefully soon indicting. All right, we mentioned this real quick before, but still developing, according to a new memo declassified by DNA Gabbard, U.S. intel flagged major 2020 election vulnerabilities, including risks to voter data. We now know that China got their hands on a bunch of this stuff. Yet we were told after the CIA knew this was going down, while it was going down, and Trump wanted it released, they didn't release it. And then on top of that, here we are.
Well, but they didn't want it released because they knew that it could potentially help President Trump. Instead of saying, we want to understand if Russia, Iran, China, if Venezuela, if they are involved in some of these election irregularities, this is a bipartisan effort, because it could have the potential to benefit President Trump. They didn't want this to be declassified. They didn't want this information out there. That should speak to the reprehensible behavior of anyone against releasing this, because this is a bipartisan issue.
Right.
Election integrity, bipartisan.
And then they went out and they said most secure election ever when they knew that wasn't the case. Katie, we appreciate it very much. All right, coming up, when has giving complete control to the government ever worked? And never. Yet libs like Tim Walz are pushing for more free health care. Make it make sense. Culture Clash next.
Hey, it's Mark Lauder. My career's taken me from the State House to the White House, campaigns for mayor, all the way to President of the United States. I came to Newsmax to help our viewers get more than the headlines, beyond the spin. It's a perspective you'll only see on Newsmax.
My cell phone bill kept going up. I started looking around, what are our other options? With Consumer Cellular, I'm saving over $50 a month. Same coverage, same data, same talk, same cell phone, simple.
So why am I paying way more for a big wireless plan? What am I getting for my money?
Consumer Cellular gives you the same fast, reliable nationwide network for up to half the cost of big wireless.
Same tower, same coverage.
I feel like people should know that.
They cut my bill just about in half.
I'm saving almost $100 a month.
That's over $1,000 a year.
Not only did I save money, but our coverage was vastly improved. It was fantastic.
There's got to be a catch, and I'm going to find it by going straight to the CEO himself, Ed Evans. What's up, Ed?
Because we serve primarily the 50-plus market today, we know our customers are going to use a lot less data. We can then set our pricing substantially lower than what the big three are able to do on the exact same networks.
Oh, I love that.
My job is to help you save money on wireless, even if you're on an unlimited plan.
My bill with the big carriers was over $300, and with Consumer Cellular, it's about $100.
Our customers ranked us #1 in network coverage satisfaction. And there's no long-term contracts.
When I look at what I had with Verizon, I'm not sure what I was paying extra for.
And yes, you could keep your number, no problem. Want to bring your phone? That's great too. We'll have you wrapped up in about 20 minutes. Really.
We hadn't gone back. We're not going back. We're with Consumer Cellular.
Call now and see how one of our U.S.-based Switch Pros can cut your bill by up to half. That's right, up to half. And when you call right now, you'll get your second month free. Just use the code SECONDFREE. And AARP members save even more. Call 1-800-918-0560. That's 1-800-918-0560.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Hey, remember that feminine failed vice presidential candidate Tim Walz that put tampons in boys' bathrooms? Well, he has another genius idea to waste American tax dollars. It's worse than the tampons in the bathrooms, actually. Roll this.
Power back. I'll tell you what, the next Democratic president better figure out a way to get universal health care, or we're back in the same situation again.
Great idea, Timmy, because universal health care has worked so well in all the countries that have it. Let's look at some average for, I don't know, pick one. Knee surgery, okay? Canada, 32 to 48 weeks. UK, 20 to 29 weeks. Australia, 6+ months. Sweden, 10 to 32 weeks. Netherlands, 14 weeks. That's actually kind of fast. Norway, 3+ months. Then we got the United States, where the average wait time is 12 days. 12 days. No wonder why Canada's assisted dying accounts for 1 in 20 deaths in that country. Newsmax contributor Kay Smythe and host of Tony Katz Today, conveniently, Tony Katz. Kay, you are from the UK. Universal healthcare worked great.
Said no one literally ever. It is the worst system. Not only does it take most of your paycheck, and everyone sits there and goes, no, it doesn't. It's only like a small portion. No, it takes most of your paycheck, so it's not actually free. And then, you spend months waiting. I heard a story about a woman the other day, Carl. She was in pretty severe labor, had absolutely no way of driving to the hospital herself. Called, it's 999, but called 911, asked, I need an ambulance. I'm about to deliver this baby. They were like, sure, it's going to be like 4 hours. Yeah, universal healthcare does not work. It's a nice idea for a minute, and then it stops working. Just fix the insurance problem in this country, and then boom.
Tony.
It solves
Universal
itself.
healthcare works great if you're rich enough to be able to afford something outside of it. When you're a limousine liberal and you can spend the money the other way, universal healthcare, you feel so good about yourself. But if you actually have to live in it, it's like all of these university professors, they all have ideas about how we should live our lives. They don't have to live in that world. They live in a fake world where everybody says, oh, yes, sir. Oh, right away, sir. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, professor. This, that, and the other. And the parking space is great. But if they actually had to work in the world, they'd fold in 4 seconds. That's the story.
That's why they exempted themselves from Obamacare and also the COVID vaccine, because, what's good for us is obviously not good for them. Kay, also, it's funny, you have a climate degree, actually. So Earth Justice is suing the Trump administration for the new deep water drilling initiative in the Gulf of America. Now, these protests are getting they have no idea what their life would be like without petroleum products. They are so delusional and naive that you even have shows like Landman now pointing out the absurdity of this. Roll this, please.
Petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on, the wheels on every car ever made, including yours, it's in tennis rackets and lipstick and refrigerators and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic. Your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, any kind of clothing that's not made with animal or plant fibers, soap, hand lotion, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it.
Pretty much.
Carl, as soon as you brought this up, my mind immediately went to Landman. And I think everything by Taylor Sheridan should be mandated viewing, but I think Landman specifically should be absolutely mandatory for anyone doing an earth science degree, for anyone who even wants to get involved in the so-called climate change part of the world that still exists within our sociology. I mean, it's really, truly, devastatingly sad that all of these people who sit there and complain about climate change clearly don't know anything enough about it to have an honest scientific conversation about it. Because if they did, they would immediately turn into Tommy What's-his-face from Landman.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just...
It's so comical, Kay. But speaking of gas, remember the outrage, Tony, from the left about gas prices rising at the pump, supposedly from what's happening in Iran. But take a look at this. Democrats love to blame Trump, billionaires, and pretty much anything else, climate change or whatever. But they chose, this is 2 gas stations a few miles apart, one in California, one in Arizona. 729 in California, 403 in Arizona.
One could believe from this that taxes are actually punitive. as opposed to things that are these great equalizers that save our lives and give us opportunity. Taxes are, of course, these things, you know, this is Milton Friedman I'm cribbing here. Taxes prevent growth. Taxes prevent opportunity, and time and again that you see it. But when you're confronted with that reality, put that graphic up again, guys, in the control room. Great people, if you could. You look at that and now ask Gavin Newsom how you defend that. And Gavin Newsom not only will not defend it, he'll get angry at you for noticing it. And that's the part that has to be remembered, that when confronted with reality, data, miles apart, they never answer the question, we really think we could do better with your money than you. They will tell you, how dare you not care about the environment?
Idiots.
How dare you even ask? And then shift to, you see, it's Trump's fault. And it'll always be Trump's fault.
Obviously, because Trump has governed California for so long. Tony, Kay, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, a man who was barred from having a gun shoots and kills 8 children. So naturally, Gavin Newsom, again, California, makes a fool of himself. We got 2A Tuesday coming up next.
It's April, time for digital spring cleaning.
I shall purge the clutter!
Whoa, use PCmatic. Our whitelist technology automatically cleans out malware and junk files without...
Delete the cookies. Delete!
Without breaking the computer. Get PCmatic. We clean the smart way. American-made security for homes, businesses, and government agencies.
Visit PCmatic.com today.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
I'm seeing more and more people in their 40s and even in their 30s starting to prioritize their cholesterol health. They're doing what they can with diet and exercise, but want something more. Human Cholesterol Health Daily is that something more. A multi-action formula with plant-based ingredients backed by 3 clinical studies that demonstrate real, measurable support for cholesterol and vascular health. Founded in partnership with the University of Texas, this is modern-day cholesterol support I wish more people knew about. Only human.
The first day back from maternity leave is so weird. We get it. Find a caregiver who does too. When it's not you, it's care.com.
I wish I wasn't afraid to smile.
I wish I could get implants.
I wish I knew who to trust.
I'm not looking for another quick fix.
I want a smile I know will last.
Clear Choice smiles are made to stand the test of time. They're built by dental implant experts, backed by 20 years of pioneering research and a lifetime warranty on premium arches. Our smiles are built for life. Schedule your free consultation today.
Little by little, age-related macular degeneration tries to take away your vision. You're not the type to sit back and do nothing, so now's the time to take action and make a plan with your doctor that includes PreserVision. It contains the clinically proven formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression. PreserVision is backed by over 20 years of clinical studies, and it's right here in the palm of your hand.
You've spent a lifetime becoming who you are. Don't let AMD take that away.
It's your vision. Take action. Choose PreserVision.
Pump up the volume. Go ahead. Crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
2A Tuesday, let's do some gun stuff. Now, as a team guy, this is like music to my ears. The House Republican Pat Harrington is pushing legislation that would allow active duty and veteran Special Operations Forces members the right to federal concealed carry authority. Harrington saying, much like H.R. 218, federal law already trusts retired police officers to carry concealed nationwide. That makes sense. But it makes no sense that an active or retired SEAL or Green Beret, someone who spent a career mastering firearms under the most demanding conditions in the world, has no equivalent recognition under federal law. Thank you. Thank you. This legislation would give all of us eligible permanent nationwide carry. This is great. Let's go. Host of Bearing Arms Cam and Company podcast, Cam Edwards, and Second Amendment columnist at Breitbart News, AWR Hawkins. Look, Cam, I'm digging this, man. I am like the subject of this 100-fold.
Well, you would, Carl, because you would be one of the chosen few who would have national right to carry reciprocity. Here's the thing. I don't like this bill. We're talking about a right of the people, of we the people. And as much as I admire and honor your service and the service of Representative Harrigan, this isn't what the Bill of Rights is all about. It's not about special carve-outs. It's the right to keep and bear arms for the American people, and that's who deserves the right to carry nationwide.
You know, Cam, this is why we have you on, because that is probably the point of the day. But, you know, I'll take what I can get at the time I can get it. However, I will always continue to fight for what you believe right there, because that is the right point. All right, AWR, a new study from the National Association for Gun Rights finds that 9 of 15 of the safest states are constitutional carry states. They find the safest states include Maine, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Vermont is right behind them, all of which have constitutional carry, which means you walk in, buy a gun, put it on your hip, walk out same day, and lowest murder rates in the country.
Right. I was just with a friend that did that today, Carl. We went shooting. He picked up a SIG 365 X Macro, carried it out, and I watched him put it in a holster. And what that means is, without jumping through any hoops, this gentleman is immediately ready to defend his life and the life of his family. And that's how it should be. And that's why constitutional carry is a winner.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I'm carrying a 365 right now. One of my favorite guns in the world. All right. Cam, this is a crazy story. Horrific, but crazy. A man shot 8 children in Shreveport, Louisiana, was given probation after a March 2019, so 7 years ago, arrest where he allegedly fired his weapon in the direction of a school where kids were playing. So it was a nut job. He pled guilty to an illegal weapons charge and was placed on probation, and the firearm charge was then dismissed. And of course, Gavin Newsom, it doesn't matter that the killer was barred from having a firearm. Instead, he blames the NRA for this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, maybe we should just make murder more illegal. That ought to stop it, right?
Yeah, this is crazy. In fact, I think the news just broke, Carl, that the individual who supposedly supplied this guy with a gun, also a convicted felon. And it sounds like that individual got a gun through a straw purchase, which, as you know, is illegal under federal law. Yeah. So Gavin Newsom, again, talking out of his rear end here, any excuse that he can to go after Second Amendment supporters, he will. But as you pointed out, this could have been prevented had the criminal justice system worked as we want it to work, right? This guy would have been behind bars. And frankly, those kids would be safe today.
AWR, I got 30 seconds for you here. This is like one of these things. There's no word about race, okay? If it's a white guy, it's wall to wall. But they rarely actually do this. Put up this statistic right here. This is unbelievable that black people are 15 times more likely to commit a gun murder than white people, yet white people are demonized as the violent problem in America.
Right. Yeah, I kept seeing on X, people would say, why isn't the mainstream media covering this? Why? It doesn't fit the template. Now, if this had been a white Trump voter, it would have been wall-to-wall coverage, but it doesn't fit the template because, as you say, it wasn't a white Trump voter, or as I say. Instead, it was a black American, and so they just let this go. This story dies. It doesn't matter the kids died because it wasn't the right perpetrator, so it doesn't fit the template.
Right, and 7 of those kids were unfortunately his. I mean, that's crazy, and yet here we are. This is why we need to have guns to protect ourselves from this. Cam, AWR, pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Before we go, they're here, they're there, they're every freaking where. Microplastics, wait until you hear how stupid the scientists are behind the study.
Here's Chris Cunahan with the Leaf Filter Gutter Report.
From blizzards to downpours to windstorms or heat waves, no matter where you live, Leaf Filter keeps your gutters clog-free year-round. Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
You want your landscaping to look great, but with those old gutters, all it takes is one thunder shower to wash it all away. That's why you need LeafGuard, the only one-piece seamless rainwater management system with a clog-free guarantee. Remember, LeafGuard comes with a lifetime transferable warranty, and now would be a great time to call during our double savings sale. We're going to double your savings from 10 to 20% off a complete LeafGuard system. Double the financing to 18 months, 0 interest. LeafGuard in most cases can be installed in less than a day. Call now and we'll double your free gift to a $100 gift card with your free in-home estimate. You might want to call now. This offer ends the 30th, and the first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with the purchase of LeafGuard. Call 800-541-1274. Now, let me give you that number again. 1-800-541-1274.
I don't have to worry about it getting the water overflowing and causing more problems.
Because we have an outdoor garden, and it has just been, the drainage has been awesome.
LeafGuard has earned the Good Housekeeping seal 20 years in a row and offers 14 colors to choose from with Scratch Guard technology. LeafGuard has been lab tested to handle up to 32 inches of rainfall an hour. Call in now to take advantage of our double savings sale. Double your savings from 10 to 20% off a complete LeafGuard system. Double the financing to 18 months, 0 interest. Plus, double your free gift to a $100 gift card with estimate. The first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with LeafGuard purchase, good for a condo, hotel stay, or a cruise. Call 800-541-1274. Now, let me give you that number again. 1-800-541-1274.
Dale, you really need to get that colon cancer screening.
Yeah, it's been forever.
Dale, we can do it with just a blood test. Shield.
Shield is for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk for colon cancer. Ask your doctor about FDA-approved Shield.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
We've seen all these warnings about microplastics, forever chemicals in like our foods, our clothing, our water, whatever, for years. One problem we haven't been concerned with, though, is how the scientists are conducting and telling us and researching how much is there until now. Why? Because it may not actually be microplastics existing everywhere. It may be because microplastics and plastic are found in the labs that are studying them. I can't believe this one got through a bunch of scientists. An article says, quite the understatement, that's a problem for our research. You think? Scientists saying that microplastics are being found in lab tubes, refrigerators, solvents, bottles, goggles, and even the lab coats and the gloves they're using to handle the substance. The head of vascular medicine at Stanford sounding the alarm, saying, think about it, every time we work with a human biospecimen, we're wearing plastic gloves and using plastic needles and plastic petri dishes, Rob. You cannot make this stuff up. I mean, these are the people that are supposed to be, well, trust the science. Yeah, that's science?
So they're using plastic to study the plastic.
And then they're wondering why
the
there's
dangers
plastic
of plastic.
Yeah.
And why there might be plastic in the plastic.
I can't believe there's plastic in plastic.
This is another medical breakthrough uncovered here on
Science.
Newsmax. Science. There you go, Carl. Good to see you.
Later, man.